response video to the nng, I'll remember this eventually, 274 guy. I call him Jimmy, maybe. Yeah, Jimmy. Anyway, yeah, thanks for the response video, I suppose. I mean, I sort of was a response video. Well, it has my name in it, so it must be kind of a response video. Yeah, it is, mostly. Anyway, so he asked questions, so we'll play the question part. But, I mean, there's a lot, I got a lot, it's a big subject. So, yeah, it's a lot of notes for a pretty, well, whatever. Let's play the video.
I can ask you, like, how many bees are alive right now? That question obviously has an answer, a specific answer, but it seems practically impossible to answer. So, I mean, I'm not...
Yeah, well, see, it depends, though, on how specific the answer has to be. And that's sort of been my argument here. There's, you know what I'm saying? I could say there's a lot of bees. I could say a few billions, maybe, somewhere in there. Many billions. Many billions. There's an answer. It's probably a good enough answer for whatever, puzzle piece you got to fit that into. It's a good enough resolution to figure out how to make that answer fit whatever use you have for it. So your use, it's hard to imagine a use for the answer that would demand more specificity. Unless you're trying to calculate, how many bee mites there are because you have something that eats bee mites and, well, you could make up something to say, okay, this is why we need a specific answer. But that's totally circumstantial. And I'm saying for our circumstance, when it comes to answering these big questions, we don't need that kind of specificity. We can do it with really simple bits of logic because the system is made out of simple principles. Attraction, repulsion, we could almost say good feeling, bad feeling. I mean, these are basically fall into simple categories, so the answers aren't going to be that complicated. They're not going to need any kind of, let's go out and count many billions of bees kind of thing.
Necessarily claiming that that's the case, but it seems to me that it might be. So I'd like to hear your opinion on that. And then also, even if we can, say, okay, well, we shouldn't continue putting quarters into the slot machine. Do we even have, do we have a choice? Can we actually stop doing it? That's...
Yeah, well, okay, so that's the answer. The problem of people often throw at me is that, well, you can't stop it. You can't change the world. You can't change the world. You can't change the world. Yeah, well, okay, fine. Yeah, well, I say I can. I say there are, it's in the realm of possibility. And, there is no such thing as possibility. There's inevitability. But the point is from our perception, the variables are unknown. So I would argue that that's the question that doesn't have an answer. That's the one we can't answer, is whether it's possible, whether we can, whether it's in the realm of what we do know. Is there anything that makes it impossible? I guess that's the key thing, right? Those are the unknown variables. It's the impossibility variable, right? Maybe it's impossible. We can't know it's impossible, and that's the problem. Possibility always is open. It's impossibility that closes doors. So until we prove impossibility, possibility is possible, right? I mean, that we can't draw any other conclusion. So I guess all I'm saying is obviously this mentality fell on me. I understand it, to my core, so to speak. I mean, so much confidence I would invest everything, anything, I would invest the risk of hell on my confidence that my theory of life is correct, that I've got it pretty much nailed. And I'd walk it, I'd invest in it, I'd throw everything I got at it, because it's a sure thing in my opinion. And so all I'm saying is how do I get my perception, this in here, convey it to other people and have it stick in them and somehow do the same thing it did to me. Somehow these thoughts, these patterns of ideas, just simple memes, composed me. And I wasn't constructed by Frankenstein. I wasn't constructed by some, something. I acquired it through this very same instruments everybody else is living with. You know, life experiences, seeing other shit happen and going, holy crap. So I don't, it doesn't seem like there's any, from just viewing it that way, it says, well, it's infinitely possible. You know, because that certainly isn't proof of impossibility, because it sure happened to me easy. I wasn't trying to find, oh, life sucks theory. And I kind of resisted it through all my maturation. I kind of wanted there to be some kind of good story here. I wanted happily ever after. I wanted it all to make sense. I didn't want it to be, oh, fuck. We're all just being, you know, fodder cogs. We're just lumps in the bowl. I mean, damn. Getting stirred up and, you know, flopped on the fryer. I mean, that's pretty dismal, and I wasn't looking for dismal. So it's kind of bogus for somebody to say, you believe what you believe because you're a dismal person. No, I'm a dismal person because I believe what I believe. Damn it. Fuck. So anyway. Alright, so where do I want to go with this? So again, I'm saying these ultimate questions, we have to ballpark them. I mean, I can't show you the videotape of abiogenesis. I can't show the whole history of evolution, but scientists can diagram that pretty good. In our whole psychology, I can't explain every nuance of the brain, but we sort of get the idea. You have this feeling part, and it creates this need to do things, and the thinking part creates strategies to satisfy the feeling part, and it's all very subjective and personal and selfish. I mean, we consciously feel, and so we kind of like, you know, it's always a lot better that the other guy has the broken leg than we do, you know, that kind of thing. So, you know, we can see the psychology. We can diagram ourselves on a pretty small piece of paper. You can take all of the human thingy and you could probably fit it all on a pretty small piece of paper. We're really not, you know, really, you know, quantum geometry or something. We're just not. Alright, so this idea of can't answer, too many variables and unknowns. He says that, maybe I already said it. Yeah, so I think I've answered that. The unknown part is always the catch, I suppose, because somebody's going to say, well, maybe something in the universe, blah, blah, blah. But I'm just saying, if we do go back to abiogenesis, we go back to the chemistry, we go back to the fact that, you know, 3/4 of the history of life doesn't have anything to do with anything that feels. I mean, it's just little chemical robots. That's all they were, chemical robots. They weren't doing any kind of living thing in the sense of how we're living. I mean, all they were doing is roboting. I mean, even plants are doing that right now, and everybody tries to anthropomorphize them into, it's alive and it's reaching for the sun and all this, and that's just wishful thinking. It's just a machine. It's just a chemical machine. It's a crystal growing. It's a process, and it is entirely mechanical. There's just nothing about the arrangement that's going to create this neural network phenomenon thing of consciousness. And we know our consciousness, it happens in brains. It doesn't just happen in tissue. You don't cut arms off and the arm is going, I need to be reattached to my body because I had some homework to finish. Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't have the neurology to do that. So anyway, I'm not talking to you like you think that thing. I'm just explaining that this is often the critique that comes at me, is that there's something needs to be answered, and it really doesn't. It's just machine wars, and these machines have consciousness, and so yeah, that makes it different, but it doesn't make it a different game. Alright, anyway, so now we're back to my confidence thing, so that's where my arrows are pointing. They're arrows. Is it justified? And I would say I was confident on many levels. I never even heard of Benatar, and I already had this philosophy. I mean, I had this philosophy essentially when I was 11 years old. I started contemplating the pointlessness of the whole adventure, you know, the whole game of life. I mean, that's when I started first thinking about well, there's a villain on TV and he's going to blow up the earth. And I would think, well, maybe that's not a bad idea. Maybe the villain is the good guy. So, I mean, I was already starting to turn to the dark side, so to speak. And, kind of figuring that maybe this infestation isn't such a great idea. I mean, I love nature and everything, but it's really, really nasty out there. So I already had confidence to some extent. Okay, back then I didn't have as much as I have now, but I'm just saying I had confidence before I even heard of Benatar. So in Benatar has this whole asymmetry argument, right? So you have the argument from asymmetry, and you have the argument from the imposition. That was sort of mine. And then you have the argument from our native bias, even. You can make that argument. So there's a lot of levels of argumentation you can pile on to say, this is why I have this conclusion. But, again, I didn't need too many when I was really young. So if I go back to my basics, what was the basic argument? The argument was I had a taste of suffering, and I had a taste of what satisfaction was, gratification. And I kind of already knew that I'd rather have immunity to that than as much of that as you could pile on a pile. I mean, I kind of already figured that I already had the experience of a kid where you anticipate and wait for Christmas for 3 months, and then when Christmas gets here, you get your stuff, it's all really good, but then the day after, you're already saying, but I need the attachment, and I need the extra battery pack, and I need, you're already, I need some more, and so I already got that whatever happiness you're going to get in life is going to wear off. And that that's a really big problem. And I even watched people, like I even remember thinking when I was a little kid, I was pretty young, about weddings. And I just thought about how this is insane. They do this whole big giant production and they invest it all in one day and it could rain. I mean, and, so something else goes wrong. What if you catch a cold or something and you're just blowing your nose through the wedding and it's just, or worse? So yeah, it didn't make any sense to me at all. I was like, why would you invest all this in one stinking day? One fucking day? And it didn't look like any fun anyway. And that made it even funnier to me. It's like, why are people doing this? That doesn't look like any fun. You have to get dressed up and go through this whole procedure and blah, blah, and talk blah, blah. Fuck, who the fuck wants to do that? So yeah, I didn't really get the whole, after honeymoon thing, but I just, well, the point would be, why go through that whole thing to get to that other thing, because you're just going to ruin yourself through that whole process anyway. But anyway, I just didn't make any sense. So I already knew that it all seems like a fraud, a phony. This isn't, people are talking like this is all so fucking super and great, and I'm like, I can certainly wait, where you say, I can't wait. Well, I was always saying to myself, I can wait, because all these can't wait events never turned out to be as spectacular as people were making it out to be. I mean, the first prizes never seemed, well, no, I'll take third place because, at least that's cash. The things that people thought were valuable, I didn't see much value in. Alright, so anyway, so I didn't need any complex argumentation just to feel my own life and say, from my own perspective, is that immunity from harm seems so much better than, this idea of the perfect life. Because I already kind of saw the hole in the fable of happily ever after. Nobody really does that. There is no real such thing. You go to sleep at night and then you have to wake up the next day and you have to go to work and you have to do all these things. So, especially I hated going to school. It was like going to prison. I dreaded waking up in the morning. So, I mean, just that whole idea of obligations was already stuck in my head, that life is obligations, and, this whole phony idea that I'm going to go live somewhere where I don't have obligations, and that things aren't going to encroach on me, and there's not going to be any mold or fungus or cockroaches or bullshit. No, there's going to be. And it just, so I couldn't make the perfect. And so if it can't be perfect, it's like, well, why are we doing this? So I can live in mediocrity at the risk of huge failure. I mean, that's what we're doing. We live for these little, superficial daily pleasures, and the price we pay is the risk of huge, giant horror falling on you. And it can literally fall on you, and you have to chew your leg off. And, you know, drink your, well, let's not even get into it. But anyway, so, but I would argue that, yeah, there are these other arguments, and I should list them, because they're all good arguments. And so I guess I'd go back to, let's just deal with one of them, just for the sake of this video. Sorry, it's a little long, but that's what I do. Is the Benatar argument, the asymmetry argument. And I think I found another way to phrase that I like better. In that, it'd be nice if I wrote it down somewhere, right? Yeah. Obligation to change them. Yeah, well, the thing is, still, we got to change the other people, and so that's part of the change argument. But I think it can be done. It's just these arguments have to be made, and they have to be made really well. All right, so it's not getting the good, right? Not getting the good, not having the good thing, is not as bad, okay, as getting the bad thing. All right, so not getting the good thing is not as bad as getting the bad thing. Yeah, so I think that says it, right? I mean, not getting something that you don't need. Okay, we're talking like, so you can't call it a good like the good of a cure for cancer, right? It can't be fixing a negative. The goods that people say are free are the goods that are real positives. I mean, positives not made by taking you out of depression, but the ones where you're getting something truly positive. Those, not having those goods that you didn't need to have, you know, the dessert or the freebie or the somebody shows up with the surprise gift. Not getting the surprise gift is not as bad as getting the shit gift. You know, the shit crap that can fall on you. I mean, it just seems kind of obvious, right? I mean, having your house fall on you is a lot worse than not having the 3 days on Paradise Island that you didn't think you could afford anyway, that you never even imagined. You know what I mean? The stuff you don't get, that you don't need, because that's the key to it. It can't be satisfying a need. There's nothing to miss. If you don't need it, you can't miss it. Therefore, it can't have any negative value. Therefore, that it's fixing. And if it's not fixing any negative value, then the negative value you're going to get subjected to has to be worth more. All right, I thought that would simplify it, but it didn't really. I think it's simple. I get it. Just have to make other people get it. Yeah, but that's the job. And I guess that's what my job is. I mean, I can do my part, right? I can not have kids. That was really easy not to do. But yeah, it doesn't matter if I'm not having them. If the other Dr. Frankensteins are still in business making Frankensteins, then the Frankensteins are still stuck. So I don't fix their problem unless I stop them. That's something I actually put in quotes, them. There's a movie called Them. It's giant ants. It's kind of a good word, them. Them. Them monsters out there that are, yeah, I mean, they're just raping and pillaging. They're just, you know, they're fucking the game by perpetuating the game. Because it's a lousy game. So anyway, enough of the video, I believe. So, yeah, I mean, I sort of got that you were doing the, you know, the, whatever they call that, laughter. What do they call that? I can't remember anything anymore. They call that something when you laugh, like, unintentionally. Involuntary laughter? Well, some kind of something like that. Well, anyway, I kind of got that was just a personality thing, you know, because you were a little awkward. So I didn't mean to imply anything. I mean, I wasn't making a critique of it in a hard way. But I think you already know that too, so now we're just telling each other what we already know. But anyway. So yeah, keep making videos anyway. And hopefully you won't be an asshole.